Ben Shapiro makes bank, right? Ben Shapiro is very, very self-sustaining, but Ben Shapiro is also like very afraid of getting canceled in this way or that way or the other way. Ben Shapiro is very dependent on networks that, would kind of drop him very quickly if he went full Kanye or something, right? And so like this sense of like really rigorous, even like signaled independence where you basically counter signal in order to establish your independence. That's a thing that should be done in a very careful and limited way, but like it's actually kind of important. This sort of truly, I feel like basically it's like looking at like a punk scene or something in 1977, right? Like the scene is much, much smaller. Punk is much, much smaller than disco, but let's face it, disco sucks. And, so like the true judgment of history will be that, punk matters much more than disco. Not that disco doesn't matter, but like disco sucks. And so, you already have this sense of kind of rigorous independence that you kind of don't see in this kind of somewhat slicker stuff that is subject to these kinds of taboos, that is like, kind of CPAC material. And the CPAC material just turns out to be very, very ephemeral, whereas the kinds of stuff that these little independent things are doing now will last, like, I think, a really long time. Republicans in Hollywood, like, never have the ability, I mean, there are networks of Republicans in, say, Hollywood, but they never sort of seem to really have the ability to infiltrate and kind of take over. Like, if you look at the communists in Hollywood in the 1930s, they basically turned Hollywood into screenwriting into a closed union shop that was run by the Communist Party that was controlling basically all of the movies that everybody saw, right? So you basically got this like incredibly, this is what, the Hollywood 10, who are the leadership of the Hollywood Communist Party, this is what that affair is about. And if you look at sort of that level of power and you imagine, what was it? The, Friends of Abe, the Hollywood, like, Republican list. Imagine like Friends of Abe having like a lock on like screenwriting in all of Southern California. You couldn't get a job as a screenwriter unless you were a secret Republican. It's retarded. It's unimaginable. It's like, and so you sort of see all of these efforts kind of being poured into kind of retaking institutions in various ways, and sort of less in terms of kind of creating institutions in the same sense that, Loma's the mysterious editor of Passage Press is taking on. And it just seems like, even to the extent that there's any kind of sort of alternative institution building, it sort of seems like very facile. It feels like something that's designed for some mysterious sort of success in like 5 years or something, some ridiculously short time span like that. And it just doesn't it has this sense of falseness and that is really inappropriate in something that's trying to replace something whose chief problem is like falseness. So, that's why I'm sort of, enthusiastic about, there's like a huge, if you compare say the kinds of media that will come out of these kinds of things and you compare Passage is hardly, and there's like 6, 7, 8, I don't know how many of these small dissident presses there are working at sort of various levels of quality and, and so forth. But if you compare those to the BoomerCon, some BoomerCon imprint of Penguin or something, right? There's just so much more energy there, and there are so many things that are not possible in some BoomerCon, imprint of Penguin. And yeah, it's just, and these, this sort of, what you have in this space from my perspective is this sort of little, it's like, from the putting my Silicon Valley hat on, it's this sort of little spark of activity, but the spark has a self-sustaining quality. It's not like one of these like fusion, research things where they have to put in the entire power supply of Minnesota for 3 days to like get 12 neutrons out, right? And the sense that like the sort of spark is both self-sustaining and kind of has an independence that you don't even see in like Ben Shapiro.